Hello and welcome back to the studio here in Northumberland. And today, this one's a project for acrylic painters, or watercolour painters that want to have a go at acrylics indeed. And I'm painting it on canvas. This is a Daler Rowney stretch canvas on wood, beautiful grade, beautiful tooth and really easy to work on. But I'm going to be painting the acrylics really good and thick, almost like an oil painting really. And I'm actually going to do one of the projects from my new book which came out last month, and it's Acrylics for the Absolute Beginner. And this is one of the projects that I'm going to work from. And it's a farmhouse. You can just see a little bit of it there. And inside the book you've got the drawings that I used, which you can pull out, spread out and use for your drawing. So everything's in there that you need. That's the other side of it, by the way. But this is the project I'm doing, and it's just called Farmhouse. So first of all, before I go any further, before I do any drawing of any kind, I'm just going to do a quick sky wash. And for this, I need my big 1.5 inch brush. And this is a Daylon brush. Everything I use is Daler Rowney. This is a Daylon brush. It's synthetic, but holds a heck of a lot of paint and a lot of water. And a lot of water is not what I need for this one. I'm starting off with cobalt blue and titanium white mixed. Titanium white's a real good standalone white. I mean, there's lots of different whites in acrylics. There's titanium white, there's zinc white, there's flake white, there's mixing white. It's just like in oil paints. And it can be very confusing. Stick to one white, far less confusing. And titanium white's a good mixer, but it's also a good standalone white. Now that's cobalt blue with a little bit of white into it. There's hardly any water in that brush, it's just paint. Now as I come further down, I'm going to add more titanium white to it. Now start and take this up, look, like so. And again, more titanium white as I come further down. And I'm going to do about 2/3 of this canvas as sky. A little bit more white. Push the brush into the canvas, make sure it's covering. I've got a hair there, could have been worse, could have been a rabbit. Come down here. Push that brush into the canvas. And again, stroking upwards now. And I'll just get rid of that hair, stroke it down there. There we go. Now, just titanium white. Coming up into the dark colour that I've already painted on. So it's a smooth transition between colours. Transition, that's a big word. Going down here. And again, all the way down. And now, all I need is a little bit more white. Now, just white. I've just about dried that brush out by squeezing it between my fingers a few times. It's a slightly damp brush. Big chunk of white there, look. Start and bash that on now. Bit more down here. Good and thick and chunky. Now, into the original blue and white mix that I used, I'm going to add a tiny touch of Payne's Grey. There. We'll have some of that down there as well. Looks a mess. It'll be right. He said hopefully. Now, make that into a sky with my finger. Into that big, thick, chunky white stuff there. Just roll my finger around there, like so. Now start and pick up some of the dark as well underneath. And make clouds. Now isn't that simple? That, of course, is digital art. I always use that one, and I always laugh at myself. Got to amuse myself somehow. Now look at that. Very, very easy sky. Get your fingers in there. Have a bit more control over the paint. And now that I've done that, I'm going to let that sky dry ever so slightly, just give it 5 minutes, and then I'll do the drawing on top. But for the time being, that is about that. And this is the point where I need the book as my reference to get the drawing in. And I've got, it's called Farmhouse. That's because it's a farmhouse. There's the end of the building there. It's a very simple little painting, this one. The top line there goes downwards ever so slightly. Now we'll have a couple of chimneys on that. This is a white building, but of course because this is acrylic I don't have to leave white. I should paint my white on afterwards. There's a couple of chimneys. There's the end of the building there. And there's a smaller building attached to the back of that. And the roof comes down lower on that one. We'll have a little chimney there as well. In the actual project in the book, there isn't a chimney on that one, but I've just invented it. Just because I can. It's a single story building with a door on the end here. A couple of windows. And a couple of windows in there. Now we've got some big trees behind here. I only left this sky about 5 minutes maximum to dry, and already I can draw straight on with it. And then as I come along here, I've got more trees. Got some poplar type things there. Another one. Bit of a gap there, and more trees here. And I'm just squiggling along. I always use a small pencil. You can hold it easily in your hand. Now I've got a path coming from there, which comes out at the side of the canvas. There, drawing done. Now, straight into the paint, and I'm using my round brush for the building. Got a little bit more control with it, and that's just burnt sienna there, like so. And all the mixers that I'm using, I'm just using a slightly damp brush. There's no surplus water in any of these mixers. It's just paint. Burnt sienna in there as well. Just blocking in up to my pencil marks. Now, actually, a bit more there. That's better. A bit deeper in colour. Now, white. And I'm going to have just titanium white in here. I drew the windows and the doors to show you where they are. Now I'm just painting through them. Much better than having to paint around them. And I shall reinstate them when it gets to that bit. Bit more white because I've picked up the burnt sienna there. Now into the chimneys. Got a little bit of white there. And a little bit there. And a bit on that one. Now, any building that's white, well really anything in white, in the shadowed side, have blue into it. Yeah. And that's just about the blue of my sky. A bit more white, that's better. And again, just blocking in. These acrylic paints that I'm using, by the way, are Dale Rowney System 3. beautiful strong colours. And of course, with it being acrylics, once it's dried, it's going to stay there. But the beauty of acrylics is, if you make a mistake, you can simply just paint over it and it will cover a little bit there. I should go in with shadow in that afterwards. I'm just going to add a tiny touch more blue, yeah, to that side and merge it in. Now it looks like a white building with the white on the left and the bluer side being bluer. I shall leave that for a second now. In the meantime, I'm going to go to the trees. Actually, I'll just move that. I'm fiddling. That's better. Now, to the trees. And I'm going to start off with Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna. Hooker's Green by itself, never use it by itself. It's a horrible colour by itself. As a mixer, however, I've got every green I could ever need with my Hooker's Green and mixing one or two other colours at a time into it. I can make lots of different greens, and that's why it was made for Mr. Hooker, who was one of the Victorian artists. Carefully around my building. I mean, as I said, if I painted into my building, I could just reinstate it afterwards, paint it in again. Because acrylics, you can't really make a mistake. But it's easier not to have to. And a building is easy enough to paint around. And this number 8 round brush that I've got is very controllable. I can get a lovely broad stroke from it, or tiny little detail strokes, as I'm doing now. Carefully around that. And down there. And instantly, when I get the trees in around the buildings, it really makes the buildings stand out. Now, a little bit of blue into those. Always sounds odd putting just blue into trees, but all it's going to do is give more depth to that green. Like that. There. And a little bit of that over here as well. Nice and dark. And I'm putting that in where the trees meet the building. Then once I've put it in, spread it up into the rest of the tree a little bit, so that you don't have a hard edge where the dark meets the green. Now, as I always say, the beauty of acrylics is you can put light on top of dark, which is what I'm going to do now. A little bit of Naples yellow, still with that same brush. Number 8 round. Bit of Naples yellow up here. Just tapping and a little bit there. And once I get it on, now just with my finger, squash some lumps. It's all very technical, squash some lumps. And now I've got light on top of my dark trees as well. Now I'm going to carry on with the rest of the trees, get all those in before I come to the foreground. This is a very simple little picture, and once all this lot's done, the rest is just big bash it on stuff. And it's much the same with the rest of these trees, but I'm going to add a few more colours here and there as well. But starting off with Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna again, bit of that, bit of that. This, by the way, Stay Wet palette. These will keep your paints good and moist for weeks sometimes. And you've got a little bit of, it's almost like blotting paper underneath there, which you wet. Then you put that film on top, then squeeze the paints out. Then when you finish painting at the end of the day, stick the lid on, keep it moist for weeks. If you're painting acrylics or you want to have a go with acrylics, get yourself a stay wet palette because they save you a lot of money. Again, all I'm doing, look here, stippling on with the tip of my round brush, a bit here, coming across here. And this new book that I've just got out, The Absolute Beginners to Acrylics, it's a really useful book because there's lots and lots of tips and techniques in it. Simple bits, how to get easy results, and then into big projects as well. So there's lots to do, lots of projects to practice on, lots of tips and techniques to learn from. And I must say, I've done a lot of books, but I am particularly pleased with this one because I love acrylics. And incidentally, the brushes that I'm using, I've used my big 1.5 inch brush for the sky. I'm using my number 8 round now. I've also got a 3/4 inch flat, they're all in my bucket, and a number 8 round. And they're all either Daylon, which is the big one, or Sapphire, which is the rest of them. And the Sapphire brush is a really nice mix, a blend of natural and synthetic hair. So they'll hold a heck of a lot of water. But they're also really strong and sturdy because I abuse brushes. Now, you notice I've left those two out. That's because I'm going to make those a little bit darker, a bit stronger. So again, Hooker's Green, Burnt Sienna, but this time a touch of Payne's Grey as well. There, a good, strong, dark, rich green. Popping that there. Just dabbing. Bringing that down into the others there. Another one there. Like so. Now, with that nice dark rich green, I'll have some of that over here as well. A few touches. Like I say, with this lot, I'm going to just introduce more colours here and there. A few bits of that. A bit there, a bit there, moving around. Now, a little bit of raw sienna. Just raw sienna. A few touches of that on here and there as well. Just changing the colours of the greens here. Bit of mix and match going on. A bit over there. Also, we'll have a little bit of burnt sienna. Just daubing colours on. I'm not being too precise about this at all. Not too much of the burnt sienna, because it's a very warm colour. If I'm not careful, it'll bring them all too far forward. Now, wash the brush out well. And a few touches of Naples yellow here and there. A few dibs and dabs. I'm going to merge all this in a minute. A few bits over there. Now, back in with my finger, just tap on. Don't rub it, dab it. If you rub it, you chance making mud on your canvas. And there, I've got lots of different colours going on. You see how many different greens I've got going on in that picture already, all with just Hooker's Green and adding other colours to it. But as I say, never ever use Hooker's Green by itself. By itself, it's just totally unnatural. Back to those poplars, and still with my round brush, a bit of Payne's Grey down that right hand side there. I'm bringing that down, and a little bit there. Bring that down into the bushes. Now, Naples yellow. And the Naples yellow is going to the left hand side. Aren't those simple? And softening at the bottom. There you go. Now, back to the building and a little bit of detail into there. I don't need much detail, it's a long way off. Now, a little bit of Payne's grey. All I need, look, there's one window. There's another one. There's a longer one for a door. And a couple of little ones in there. Shadow in those. Actually no, before the shadow I'm going to put a bit of a chimney pot on. So I'm going to have Naples yellow mixed with burnt sienna. Chimney pot. Another one there. One there. Now for my shadow, Payne's grey and a touch of crimson into it. So it's quite a warm shadow. It's dark, but it's warm. And where the roof meets the building, coming across with a nice strong dark hard line there. Now, wash my brush out, squeeze out, and soften the base of that hard line. There. Now that makes that roof sit down onto the building. Same colour here, all the way across there. Now, of course the light's coming from the left, obviously. That building will cast a shadow onto that building. So we'll have one down there, and into the base of the building itself. A window. And a little bit there. Building done. Isn't that easy? As I said, building done. Not quite. I don't like that bit. I'm just going to darken that side there. And there. That's better. A bit there. Just darkening those sides slightly. Now, building done. Now, to the big bits underneath. I've got a little bit of Naples yellow, and I'm going back to my 3/4 inch flat brush, look, Naples yellow underneath there. Instantly when you put that in, that ties those trees down to the ground. A little bit of Naples yellow over here as well. Like so. And coming a little bit further forward with this one. Now before I do any more grasses either side, I'm going to stick the path in. And I'm doing that so that you can imagine if I painted all the grass in either side first, I'd then have to very carefully paint that path in so as not to lose it. Now if I do the path first, I can just go in from side to side. Doesn't matter how much mess I make either side because I'm going to cover it with the grasses. So I'm going to paint the path in raw umber. Now raw umber, it's the only brown that I use in acrylics or in watercolours for that matter. So if I take the raw umber by itself, I've got a lovely brown. If I put a touch of burnt sienna into my raw umber, I've got burnt umber. If I put a touch of blue into my burnt umber mix, I've got Van Dyke brown. If I take my raw umber and a touch of blue, I've got sepia. So I've got 4 different browns from one tube. Such a versatile brown. And that is raw umber with a tiny touch of titanium white into it. So basically I've just lightened the raw umber. And there'll be some more colours going on there once it's dried, but for the time being I'll just leave that as it is. But there's my path established. Now it's time for all these grassy areas down here. And I'm not going to paint grass itself. These are just washes of colour. And I'm starting off with Hooker's Green and raw sienna. Look, and I'm just bashing it in. Again with my 3/4 inch flat brush, and I'm going up to that Naples yellow that I painted before, which is still movable. So I'm softening one into the other. Carefully up to my path. And again, big strokes down here. Again, carefully up to my path here. Then merging in. Softening here, taking one into the other. And I'm going to stop about there because I'm going to get darker further forward. So a little bit of that over here as well. Carefully up to my path again. And again, bash it on there. Bash it on, another technical term for you. Like so. And again, up to the path there. Now I've got a little bit of Hooker's Green, and this time burnt sienna. Remember, that was raw sienna. So Hooker's Green and burnt sienna versus darker mix. Bit of that. Plenty of burnt sienna into it, and that's coming in down here. So now I'm getting tonal recession there. You've got your darker green, you've got your mid-tone green, then you go into light there. Listen to me talking about tonal recession. I'll be getting technical next. Coming down to the bottom there, making sure I'm filling in the canvas. And again, carefully up to my path. See, the beauty of these brushes is you've got a big broad stroke there, and then you can go with the sharp of the brush for good sharp detail. Or more fiddly bits. Again, some of that here. And you see how that, again, pulls the path out by getting the dark next to it. Soften that in a little bit. You see what I'm talking about with the grasses? I'm not really messing about painting individual blades of grass. These are just big washes. Now back to the path, and I've got a tiny touch of Naples yellow here and there. Still with that big 3/4 inch brush. And I'm just popping some Naples yellow in here and there, like so. With the tip of the brush. Now, wash out, squeeze out. With a clean damp brush, just merge these. Gentle strokes, light. And that again just helps to lift the path ever so slightly. We'll have a few touches of grass. Back to my Hooker's Green and burnt sienna mix, good and strong. There's no water. All I'm doing is put that on like so and flick upwards, look, see? Or with a flat brush. Pull it, flick it up. And now dab in to merge one into the other a little bit. A few flicks there. A few bits there. Edge it there. And a few flicks there. You only need the grass in the foreground. And a little bit there. Again, edging that path. Finally, a little bit of shadow, which again is the Payne's grey and a little bit of crimson. And I'm just going to pop that there and there. again with the dark next to that light. You just add that little bit of interest to an otherwise flat area. Tiny touches. Wash the brush out, squeeze out, and where I put that dark next to the cottage, just soften a little bit there. And there we go. A very simple little project. And a very simple project, easily painted. That didn't take long. We don't do any editing in these, so how long it's taken is how long it's taken to do. There's lots and lots of projects in this new book, The Beginner's Guide to Watercolour, to Acrylics, sorry. I've done so many books. This one came out about a month ago. There's lots and lots of tips in it, and some big projects too. If you want the book, get in touch with my website, although it's available in most big bookstores as well throughout the world. But we sell it on the website along with the System 3 paints that I'm using. System 3 by Dale Rowney, good quality acrylics, good and strong in colour. Don't be afraid of slapping on some good strong colours, you can always tone them down afterwards. The brushes, likewise, Dale Rowney, there's only 4 of them. There's my 3/4 inch flat, there's my 1.5 inch flat, there's my number 8 round, and there's my number 3 bigger. 4 brushes. And incidentally, I use the same brushes for my watercolours as well. These are watercolour brushes, but they're good and strong and sturdy, and you can use them for your acrylics as well. Look at the state of mine, but they'll stand the abuse. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.